The thing about saying, I love you for the first time is that everything after it is different. Not dramatically different. Not the way films suggest, with swelling music and a changed world. Differently in the smaller ways. The way a room looks after you have rearranged one piece of furniture. Everything in the same place except the one thing that is not. And because that one thing has moved, everything else looks new. Obi noticed this on the Monday after the Han River. She arrived at the office at 7:52, 8 minutes before anyone else, exactly as she always had. She made her tea in the kitchen, opened her laptop, pulled up the consolidation file she had been working through since Thursday. Everything the same. Except that when Seojun walked in at 8:16 with his coffee and his jacket and his newspaper that he read for exactly 12 minutes every morning before beginning work, she looked up for 1 second. Not 2 seconds. Not the invisible 1-second glance she had been permitting herself for weeks. Just one full open second. And in that second he looked back. And his expression was different from every expression she had seen on his face in the office before. Not unprofessional. Not visible to anyone else in the open-plan floor. Just warmer. The way a room is warmer when a window has been left open the right amount. She went back to the consolidation file. He went to his desk. Nobody noticed anything. Obi told herself this was fine. She was a private person. She had always been a private person. She had grown up in a household in Abuja where her father said that what a family kept to itself stayed strong. And she had carried that philosophy across 4 countries and into a Seoul trading firm where she had spent 8 weeks ensuring nobody could read her face. She was good at this. She would continue to be good at this. Her phone buzzed at 9:17. A message from Seojun. In Korean. There is a problem with the DOESN figures on slide 12. I think you saw it before I did. Can we look at it together at 11? She read it. She typed back. I saw it on Friday. Yes. 11. She put her phone face down on the desk. She went back to the consolidation file. She was smiling. She made herself stop. Amaka called at lunch. How was Monday? Amaka said. It was Monday, Obi said. That tells me nothing. It was fine. Professional. Normal. Did he look at you differently? A pause. I don't know what you mean. Obi Ajili. Amaka. Did he look at you differently? Another pause. Longer. The office is a professional environment, Obi said. We are both professionals. Amaka made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a groan. You are impossible. You are the most impossible woman alive. You told a man you loved him on the banks of the Han River, and now you are sitting in your office telling me about professionalism. I am at work. Call me after work, Amaka said. With details. I need details, Obi. I have been patient. I have been so patient. I am owed details. Obi ended the call. She ate her jollof rice. She went back to the consolidation file and tried not to think about the way the 11 o'clock meeting was going to feel different from every 11 o'clock meeting that had come before it. It felt exactly as different as she had known it would. They sat across from each other in the small meeting room on the 2nd floor, the one with the whiteboard and the window that looked onto the building's inner courtyard, not the floor-to-ceiling city view of the main conference room. Just them and a laptop and a spreadsheet and slide 12 with its incorrect DOESN projection, and the particular quality of air in a room that knows something the people in it are not saying out loud. The figure has been transposed, Obi said. She pointed at the screen. The September actuals and the October forecast have been entered in the wrong columns. Everything that follows from slide 12 is based on the wrong baseline. Seojun looked at the screen. How far back does it go? 6 slides. The whole regional summary needs to be reconstructed. He leaned back in his chair. Not frustrated, calculating. How long? If I start now, 3 hours. If we split it, 90 minutes. He looked at her. Then we split it. They worked. 94 minutes. Mostly in silence. Occasionally in the brisk shorthand of 2 people who had worked side by side long enough to speak in half sentences and be understood. She took slides 12 through 15. He took 16 through 18. They checked each other's work without being asked. The reconstructed regional summary was cleaner than the original had been. When they were finished, Seojun closed the laptop and looked at her across the small table. Dinner, he said. Friday. We have dinner every Friday, she said. I know, he said. I am telling you in advance this time. A pause. I want to cook again. She held his gaze. You want me to bring the jollof rice? I want you to bring the jollof rice, he confirmed. I will bring the jollof rice, she said. They walked back to the open-plan floor together. By the time they reached their respective desks, the professional composure was back in place on both of them, seamless and complete. Nobody had seen anything. Nobody would see anything. This was how they had both decided it would be. Not because they were ashamed, not because they were uncertain, but because what they had was theirs, and they were both, in their different ways, people who knew the value of keeping something whole by not handing it to the world before it was ready. Thursday arrived with a complication. Obi was at her desk at 2 in the afternoon when her phone rang. The number on the screen was a Nigerian number she recognized immediately, her mother's landline in Abuja, the one that only got used for calls that required a certain formality. Her mother called her mobile like a normal person. The landline meant someone else was making the call on her behalf, which meant something had been discussed that required an official position. She answered, Obi Ajili, her aunt's voice, her mother's older sister, Auntie Ngozi, who had an opinion about everything and delivered each one with the authority of someone who had been having opinions since before Obi was born. We have not heard from you in 6 weeks. I spoke to Mama 3 days ago, Obi said carefully. You spoke to your mother. You did not speak to the family. This was a distinction that carried weight in her mother's household. The family meant the extended network of aunties and cousins and family friends who had all, at various points, invested emotional energy in Obi's future and felt entitled to updates on it. I have been busy, Obi said. Your mother says you have a friend in Seoul, Auntie Ngozi said. A Korean friend. Obi went very still. Mama said that. Your mother said you seemed different on the phone. Happy in a new way. We asked questions. She answered some of them. A pause. We want to know about this friend, Obi Ajili. Is he a good man? In the open plan office, 2 desks away, Seojun was reviewing a document with Juno. He had not looked up. He did not know that 6,000 kilometers away, in an Abuja living room, a council of Obi's aunties had convened to discuss his existence. He is a very good man, Obi said quietly. A pause on the line. Then Auntie Ngozi said, and there was something in her voice that Obi had not expected, something softer than the official tone. Then bring him to us when you are ready. Not before, but when you are ready, Obi Ajili. Obi held the phone for a moment after the call ended. She looked at the ceiling. She thought about the particular architecture of her family, the way love in her household expressed itself through scrutiny, through question, through the specific form of attention that meant you mattered enough to be examined. She thought about what it would mean to bring someone to that. She thought about Seojun reviewing his document 2 desks away, who had a Sunday sister call that lasted between 4 minutes and 3 hours, who had told his sister her name before he had told Obi he had done it, who was precise in everything including the way he moved through the world and the space he made for the people he chose. She thought, not yet, but not never. She went back to work. Friday came. She arrived at his apartment with jollof rice in a flask and a bottle of palm wine she had found in a Nigerian shop in Itaewon that she had not known existed until Amaka discovered it 3 weeks ago and sent her the address with 17 exclamation marks. She had not told him about the palm wine. She was curious what he would do with it. He opened the door and looked at the bottle. I don't know what that is, he said. Palm wine, she said. It's fermented from palm trees. It's sweet and slightly sour, and it tastes like home and absolutely nothing else in the world. He took the bottle. He turned it over. He read what he could read and looked at what he could not read, and then he said, with the particular seriousness he brought to things that interested him, I will pour it correctly if you tell me how. She told him how. He poured it correctly. They ate at his kitchen counter, her jollof rice, his doenjang jjigae, the palm wine in 2 small glasses, and Seoul blazed beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, and they talked. She told him about Auntie Ngozi's call. She had not planned to. It came out in the natural flow of the conversation, somewhere between the palm wine and the second helping of jollof rice, because they had developed in the weeks since the Han River the particular intimacy of 2 people who had decided to stop editing themselves before they spoke. She told him about the landline and Auntie Ngozi's voice and the council of aunties and the question, is he a good man, and the answer she had given. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then, what did you tell her? I told her you were a very good man. He was looking at her with the expression she had come to know best. The one that happened when she said something that settled something in him that had been unsettled. And the rest? About bringing me to them. I said not yet. Not yet, he repeated. Not never. Not never, she confirmed. He picked up his palm wine. He looked at it for a moment. Then he said, My mother wants to speak to you on a video call. Obi looked at him. You told your mother about me. I tell my mother everything. I have tried to change this on multiple occasions. It has not worked. He met her eyes. She has known about you since before the Han River. She asked me, after the second dinner, why I was calling so late on a Friday. I told her I had been at dinner. She asked with whom. I told her. He paused. She said, and I am translating this as accurately as I can. She said you sounded like someone who had decided to know things rather than simply being told them. She said that was rare. Obi was quiet for a moment. She said that from a description. My mother is perceptive, he said. It is, I believe, a family trait. She looked at him. He was watching her with the expression that was half professional composure and half something that had no professional equivalent. The expression she had spent 8 weeks watching develop across his face in an office where neither of them acknowledged it existed. When does she want to speak? Obi said. She said whenever you are ready. Tell her Sunday, Obi said. After your sister call. Something crossed his face, quick and warm and entirely genuine. He reached for his phone. She heard him composing a message to his mother in Korean. Quickly, the way people type when they are trying not to show how pleased they are. Amaka called at 10 that night. Obi answered from the elevator going down from his apartment, walking home through the October Seoul streets with her empty flask and her heart doing something she had stopped trying to describe. I told him about Auntie Ngozi, she said. You told him. And he told me his mother wants a video call. Silence. Then Amaka, in the quieter voice she used for things that were actually large, Obi. I know. Mothers, Obi. Both of them. Already. I know. This man is not playing. No, Obi said. He is not. Call me after the video call, Amaka said. Every detail. I mean it. Obi ended the call. She walked home through Seoul laughing. A real laugh. Full and unguarded. The kind that arrives when you are not watching for it. And the city moved around her, enormous and indifferent and full, and she let it. Sunday came with unexpected weight. She had not been nervous about many things in her life. She had left Abuja at 24 with 2 suitcases and no certainty. She had sat in Korean language exams in Paris and answered every question in a language she had taught herself. She had walked into Shin Global Trading on a Monday morning as the only person in the room who looked like her and made herself, week by week, undeniable. She did not, as a general rule, get nervous. She was nervous about the video call, not because she doubted herself, because Seojun's mother mattered to him in a specific and unperformative way. The Sunday calls, the way he said her name when he mentioned her, the particular softness that came into his face when he talked about Busan, and what mattered to him had, somewhere in the last 3 months, become something she took seriously. She set up her laptop at her desk at 4 in the afternoon. She was wearing a deep green top, not because she was trying to impress anyone, but because green was the color she wore when she wanted to feel like herself. She had her rooibos tea. She had her notebook. She had decided she was ready. Seojun appeared on screen first. He was at his apartment. She recognized the kitchen background, the Han River barely visible through the window. He looked at her. You look composed, he said. I am composed, she said. Your jaw is slightly tight. My jaw is fine. Obi. Connect the call, Seojun. He connected the call. His mother appeared on the screen. Kwan Myri was 61 years old. With Seojun's precise bone structure and his particular quality of complete stillness, and the kind of warm dark eyes that had clearly been watching people carefully for 6 decades and had formed very accurate opinions about all of them. She looked at Obi for a moment. Then she said, in Korean, clear and unhurried. You are more composed than I expected. Jehun said you were composed, but I thought he was being generous. Obi answered in Korean. He was being accurate. A pause. Then Seojun's mother laughed. A real one, surprised out of her. The same laugh Obi had heard from her son on the Han River and recognized now as a family inheritance. Your Korean is very good, she said. I have been studying for 2 years and 4 months, Obi said. I wanted to understand every room I walked into. And do you? Understand every room. Obi held her gaze through the screen. Most of them, she said. I am still learning this one. Something settled in the older woman's expression. Something decided. She looked at Seojun on his side of the call. Obi could not see his face from her angle, but she could hear the quality of his silence, which was the silence of someone watching something go better than they had allowed themselves to hope. "Tell me about Abuja," Seojun's mother said. And Obi told her. She told her about the city the way she had told Seojun on their first dinner. The dust and the noise and the orange evenings and her father's house with the mango tree in the courtyard. She told her about her mother, who had learned 3 words of Korean specifically for this call and had rehearsed them for 2 days. She told her about the decision to leave at 24 and the particular loneliness and freedom of building yourself somewhere new. Seojun's mother listened the way Seojun listened, completely, without the restlessness of someone waiting for their turn to speak. When Obi finished, there was a comfortable silence. Then, "My son," Seojun's mother said, "has been very careful his whole life. Careful with his choices. Careful with his words. Careful with the people he lets close." She paused. "He is not careful about you. He talks about you the way he talks about things he has already decided." She looked at Obi directly. "I wanted to see if you were decided too." Obi held her gaze. "I am decided," she said. The call lasted 47 minutes. By the end of it, Seojun's mother had told Obi 3 things about Seojun that he had clearly not authorized, and that Obi filed away with the care of someone who understood that knowing a person's history was the beginning of knowing them fully. He had been afraid of the dark until he was 9. He had cried at a film about a dog when he was 26 and denied it for 3 years. He had called his mother the night after the first dinner with Obi and talked for 2 hours and fallen asleep mid-conversation. When the call ended, Seojun looked at her from his side of the screen. "What did she say when I looked away to answer the door?" "She said you cried at the dog film," Obi said. A pause. "She was not supposed to say that. She said you denied it for 3 years. She was definitely not supposed to say that. She also said you called her after our first dinner and talked for 2 hours. A longer pause. "I am going to call her right now. She will tell me everything you say," Obi said. He looked at her. Then he laughed, and she laughed. And for a moment they were just 2 people on a video call in 2 different apartments in Seoul, laughing because something had happened that was too good and too real to hold properly. The kind of thing that keeps spilling out in laughter because there is nowhere else for it to go. The month that followed was the best month of Obi's life in Seoul. Not because everything was perfect. Nothing is ever perfect. There were long weeks at the office, and one Friday dinner that was canceled because Seojun had a crisis with a client in Tokyo that required 14 hours of his attention. And a Tuesday afternoon when she got news from Abuja that her father had been unwell, and she sat in the office bathroom for 12 minutes not crying, and then went back to her desk and worked through the feeling, because that was what she did with things she could not fix immediately. There were ordinary days and demanding days and days when Seoul felt enormous and far from home, and she missed her mother's voice in a way that was not soothed by a phone call. But there was also this, someone who noticed. Not in the performed way of someone who has been told to pay attention. In the particular way of someone who was already paying attention before they decided to. Seojun noticed the Tuesday and did not make it large. He simply appeared at her desk at 5:15 with a container of the doenjang jjigae she had told him on their third dinner was the most comforting thing she had eaten in Seoul, and put it on her desk, and said nothing, and went back to his own desk. She looked at the container for a moment. She looked at him. He was already typing. He did not look up. She ate the jjigae. She went home. She called her mother. She was fine. She told Amaka on the Saturday. "He brought you soup," Amaka said. "Yes." Without being asked. Without being asked. And he didn't make a thing of it. He put it on my desk and went back to work. Amaka was quiet for a moment. Then, "Obi, I need you to understand something." "What?" "That is the kind of man people write books about. People write books about all kinds of men. The good kind of books," Amaka said. "The kind your grandmother keeps on the shelf. That kind." Obi looked at the ceiling of her apartment. "He brought me soup, Amaka. He saw you were having a hard day without you telling him, and he brought you the specific thing you told him weeks ago made you feel better, without making it into a moment or asking for anything back." She paused. "Obi, that is love in its actual form, not the declaration form. The actual form." Obi did not answer. She already knew. That was the thing about being a person who paid attention. She had been paying attention to this for weeks, and she already knew exactly what it was. She had simply been waiting, in her private and unhurried way, for the right moment to say it out loud. The right moment arrived on a Saturday in November. It was not a dramatic moment. It was not a Han River at dusk moment or a rooftop confession moment. It was 11 in the morning and they were in her apartment for the first time. She had invited him on a Saturday because Amaka was visiting her cousin in Busan and the apartment was quiet, and she wanted to show him her space, the particular version of herself that she had built in Seoul. The rooibos tin and the fabric swatches pinned to the wall above her desk, and the 3 books always in progress, and the notebook she had been keeping since she arrived in the city, full of things she had heard and observed and chosen not to say out loud. He moved through her apartment the way she had moved through his, carefully, with genuine attention, looking at things properly. He stopped at the notebook on her desk. "May I?" "Yes," she said. He picked it up. He turned the pages slowly. Most of it was in English, but some sections she had written in Korean. The entries from the office, where her thoughts ran in the language she had been living in all day. He read a page near the middle. He read it twice. "This is from the 3rd week," he said. Not a question. "The Tuesday after the printer conversation," she said. "When you told Juno my CV was better than both of theirs." He looked up from the notebook. "You wrote about it." "I wrote about most things." He looked at the page again. She had written, in Korean, in her precise, careful script, "He defended me again today. He does not know I heard. I keep thinking about how different a person is when they believe they are not being observed. He is, in both versions, the same. That is the thing I cannot stop thinking about. He is exactly the same." He set the notebook down. He looked at her with the expression that had no professional equivalent, the one she had watched develop across months into something she no longer needed to translate. "I have been thinking," he said, "about something my sister said." "What did she say?" "She said that the most important thing about the person you choose is not how they treat you in the good moments. It is how they treat you in the ordinary ones. The Tuesday afternoons. The canceled Fridays. The moments nobody is watching." He paused. "She said that is the version of a person you are actually living with." Obi looked at him. "She is very wise. She is 27 and she has been in a relationship for 4 years, and she speaks about it as though she has discovered something nobody else has ever noticed," he said. "She is also, in this particular case, correct." Obi crossed the room. She stood in front of him, not performing anything, not constructing anything, just herself in her apartment on a November Saturday with rooibos going warm on the kitchen counter and Seoul outside the window, and this man who had been, in every unobserved moment for the past several months, exactly who she needed him to be. "Seojun," she said. "Yes." The notebook entry from the 3rd week. She met his eyes. "I wrote that I could not stop thinking about the fact that you were the same in both versions. Observed and unobserved. The office version and the version your friends heard on the phone when you thought I couldn't understand." She paused. "I want you to know that is the thing I was most afraid of. Not falling for someone I had seen clearly. Falling for someone I had only seen one version of." She looked at him steadily. "I have seen every version. I am not afraid." He held her gaze for a long moment. The apartment quiet around them, the city outside carrying on without them. Then he reached out, deliberately, carefully, the way he did everything that mattered, and took her hand. Not dramatically, not with ceremony. Just his hand finding hers in the quiet of her apartment on a Saturday morning. The way a precise person makes contact, meaning every millimeter of it. "I know," he said. "I know you are not afraid. That is one of the things I love most about you." She did not let go of his hand. "Your mother told me you were afraid of the dark until you were 9. He closed his eyes briefly. "She is incapable of keeping anything. She also said you talked for 2 hours after our first dinner. I am aware of what she said. You were awake until 3 in the morning telling your mother about a woman you had been on one dinner with. Obi, you talked about my jollof rice for 20 minutes. That is an exaggeration. She told me. Specifically, 20 minutes. He opened his eyes. He looked at her, and his expression was the one she had loved longest, the one she had been watching since before she let herself know she was watching it, the one that had been building across every unobserved moment in every room they had shared since the first Monday in October. Open. Certain. His. You are going to tell Amaka everything I just said, he said. I am going to tell Amaka everything you just said, she confirmed. She is going to be very pleased with herself. She has been pleased with herself since before either of us admitted anything, Obi said. She has been right about everything from the beginning. She is building toward a specific level of satisfaction that I cannot prevent. He smiled. The real one, the one that reached his eyes and changed his whole face and was entirely his, and pulled her slightly closer and said, into the top of her head, quietly, as if the sentence had always been there and had simply been waiting for the right Saturday to be said, "Good. She deserves it." Obi stood in her apartment in Seoul, in November, with her hand in his and rooibos on the counter and 3 books in progress on her desk, and the city enormous beyond the window. And she thought about a woman in Abuja who had spent 2 years learning a language in her apartment, alone, driven by the stubborn ambition to understand every room she entered. She had not planned for this room. She had not planned for this man, who was the same in every version and brought soup on difficult Tuesdays and called his mother at 3 in the morning after first dinners and sat perfectly still in every unobserved moment, being exactly who he was. She had been paying attention for 7 months. She had found, in that attention, something she did not have a word for in any of the 4 languages she spoke, something that sat between certainty and relief and the particular fullness of a life that had made room for something real. Amaka's phone buzzed at 2 in the afternoon. She was in Busan, walking along the waterfront with her cousin, when the message arrived. She stopped walking. She read it 3 times. He held my hand in my apartment and talked about his mother and said she deserves to be right. I am keeping him. Amaka pressed her phone to her chest and looked out at the Busan Sea, the same sea Seojun had grown up beside, and felt the particular joy of someone who has been saying, "I told you so" for 7 months and has finally, completely, been confirmed. She typed back 4 words, "I always knew, Obi." 3 dots appeared. Then, "I know you did." Then, after a pause, "Thank you for knowing." Amaka sat down on a bench by the sea. She did not scream this time. The feeling was too big for a scream. Some things are too settled and too real and too right for noise. Some things you just sit with, beside the sea, in the city where the man you knew about grew up, and you let it be exactly what it is. In Seoul, in an apartment in Mapogu, 2 people sat together on a Saturday morning and watched the city they had both chosen from a window above the Han River, and did not say anything else for a long time, because nothing else needed to be said. If part 3 kept you here until the very end, you already know what to do. Subscribe right now, so part 4 comes straight to you the moment it drops. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your favorite moment in part 3? The soup on the Tuesday? The video call with his mother? Or the Saturday morning in her apartment? And if this story has stayed with you across all 3 parts, like this video. It takes 1 second, and it means everything to this channel. Obi and Seojun are not finished. Part 4 is coming. Do not miss it.